Hi, my name is Frankie. Thank you for listening to my mom. I never listen.
Welcome to Nothing But Net. This is Debbie Antonelli, and I am pleased to be joined with the Yow sisters, Debbie Yow and Susan Yow, on the eve of the Play4Kay weekend. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
Okay, so I'm not going to keep you guys too long, but I want to get to a couple of things very quickly. One is, we know this is the big Play4Kay week, and there's a lot of celebration going on around breast cancer survivors. And I know you two are very proud of what your sister has done. But before we get into the actual Play4Kay games, I want to ask you, starting with you, Debbie, as somebody that was a former camper who's been coached by both of you, who we all have a great affinity and love for the game, what does it mean to grow up Yow?
Well, we were blessed that we lived so close to the school, Debbie, grades 1 through 12. We walked to school. We walked home. So that meant the blacktops were very close to us. We could go play ball anytime we wanted to, even if the gym was closed. The gym still stands. I don't know how often it's used, but I can remember Susan playing and mother saying, if it starts to snow, come home. That didn't work out as well as we had hoped at that time. She finally showed up. So it was great to be that close to school and be able to play ball.
Susan, you're the All-American in the group out of the three sisters. We know you had a game at NC State where you had 23 rebounds. When you think about growing up on the blacktop, as Debbie is so eloquently stated about what your childhood was sort of like, what was it like kind of tagging along with your big sisters?
Well, I had to reiterate or to just connect with what Debbie was saying. We kind of grew up really in a Mayberry town. We really did. And we lived on Dick Street, and it was named after the first doctor in Gibsonville. And that street was just loaded with athletes and kids of all ages, our ages, Kay's age, Ronnie's age. I mean, it was a wonderful street. And if you were going to play ball, you came to Dick Street because we had a field down below our house and you could play football and baseball there. And then you did have the blacktop to play basketball. So, I mean, it was just a wonderful place a town to grow up in. And I think for me, what it meant to be a Yow growing up, I followed in my siblings' footsteps. And, when I was little, and, Debbie and I are 4 years apart, and then Ronnie and I are 5, and then Kay and I are, everybody knows, 13 years apart, 12, 13. They had trophies. I didn't have a trophy. My mother would display those trophies in the house, as a mother would do, and for children. And I used to always think, I can't wait till I have a trophy. When I was in the 6th and 7th grade, I didn't have a trophy, and they all had trophies. And all I wanted to do was have a trophy like one of them. And so I finally got my first trophy when I was a freshman in high school, and you have your high school athletic banquet, and I was named the MVP of our team. So that was my first trophy, and I was so proud of the fact that I could display that trophy with the rest of the trophies.
I'm sure it was a big trophy, and I know you worked hard to get it. Debbie, what was the influence of your parents on your family's love for sport?
Debbie, they both were very good athletes, but there was no money for college. We're all first generation college graduates. I think the influence they had on us, along with Kay, who was the first to go to college, was that this was the norm. You are going to go, you are going to have a better life, and you're going to have choices that we didn't have. But when we were growing up, you don't appreciate that as much as you should. And they were as supportive as they possibly could be of what we were doing athletically and academically. I think Susan got the better end of the deal probably as the youngest. I can remember, my dad would come to as many games as he could, but he's working in Greensboro. So we grew up, the Mayberry town Susan's referencing is Gibsonville, North Carolina, hometown also of Torrey and Terrence Holt. Pretty good athletes. but they need to work. They were blue collar workers, not college degrees. The bills were coming due, so they did the best they could. But they were both in high school and in what was called mill ball, MILL. The mills had ball teams, and they played. And well, I have a picture here in the den upstairs of my mom on her team in the Mill League. McEwen Mills was the name of it, and also her senior picture. I think Susan sent that one to me during her high school. She also went to Gibsonville. Now, all this is so strange, right? So we all went to the same high school. It existed all those decades, and we were able to walk to school and walk home and play ball anytime we wanted to.
What would you say, Susan, about the influence of your parents on your opportunity to go to college and to play sports in college?
Well, Kay did set the standard as far as, what we were supposed to do as far as our education was concerned. And I never felt like I was pressured into playing anything. I just think our parents both loved the games of football and basketball. And it was on our house, it was on Saturdays and Sundays NFL games, Saturdays, college games. TV was always on sports. So it's a part of your daily life during the weekends.
Debbie, what would you say was one or two of Kay's greatest leadership qualities?
I remember her as being patient. I don't think if she were with us today, she would agree, but I do. And Susan and I, having not only been her sisters, but we played for her. We're her athletes. We're the first set before she got to NC State for, I think, 34 years. I would say patience with us and everybody else as we were, coming along, and the game was new and Title IX was new and the opportunities were new and scholarship. Susan was the first scholarship athlete I ever knew. I
never got a scholarship. I got a correction.
I thought you did your senior year.
No, not.
Oh my goodness. No. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I thought it was an academic scholarship back then, Susan.
Right. I can't say much about that.
So patience, Debbie. I would say Kay had great patience with us and her other student athletes. And I think that continued through the years at NC State. Although she did have a saying, and the saying was 3 words, and we all know it. I don't even have to, I can say 3 words, they'll all repeat it at the same time. One more time, because there was always one more time to run that play, run that option, try to get it a little bit better.
You have to be familiar with that, Debbie. Antonelli.
Yes, I am familiar with that. And I'm also, I thought it was going to be, what more can we do? Even though that's more than 3. Susan, what would you think? You say I think idolize would be a word that you could use about your relationship with Kay, since there was 12 or 13 years between you. Well, what would you say about her leadership style that you admired the most?
She just could relate with anyone. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter if your age or, ethnicity or anything. Kay could just relate with anyone at any point in time. And I think that was another thing that made her so special. I mean, she could strike up a conversation and be entertaining to a 5-year-old as well as a 16-year-old. So she just had a special gift and be able to do that.
Susan, what would you say Kay would be really proud of today if she would look at where women's athletics has gone and then where the Kay Yow Cancer Fund has impacted so many?
I think it's the game. She would be really pleased with the growth of the game, just how much it's grown, the coverage that women's basketball is receiving now, and the opportunities that the student athletes have in the game. I think she would be very, pleased with that, because it would be something that I think she would have had a vision for this. This is not something that would have been new to her. She had this vision. And I think as far as for the fun is its overall growth and impact and how it's serving and helping people. I mean, I can't, I was at an event yesterday that the fund runs, the run walk for the Kay Yow Cancer Fund. And the people that just come up to you just out of, they're not even related to sports or basketball, and just what the fund has done for them and how it has served them, how it has helped them. It's sometimes it really is, it blows my mind, the impact that it is having.
How about you, Debbie? What do you think?
Well, Susan's talking about the fund. This morning, was texting with someone who had a great idea, and his idea was that the North Carolina Courage could have a fund night. And I just said to him, what a fantastic idea. And I hope he pursues that. There's, especially in the state of North Carolina, any professional women's sports franchise, I think would be proud to do that.
Debbie, as a leader of NC State and many other places, you've paved a path that not many women have been able to do. And I look at your family and I think about all the incredible, lasting, indelible moments and opportunities you've created for others. When you think about your time leading NC State and the influence and the impact that Kay has had, I know your family all grew up State fans. You know, how do you sum that up?
Well, I think it was special legacy for me to have the opportunity to come home and to serve as NC State's athletic director was special. Susan came to the introductory press conference and then she brought me a gift after it was all over. And I said, what is this? It was a little box. What's in here? And, you know, people still milling around and I'm supposed to be doing interviews, but I wanted to find out. And she said, they're all of Kay's pens. All of Kay's NC State pens. I had them all since she died. And she said that I'm giving them all to you now because you should have them. So I do. And they're vintage. Some of them are vintage. And I would wear them on special occasions at NC State during my 9 years as athletic director.
Wow, what a gift, Susan. You had collected all of those and saved those from her. She left those for you and you passed them on to Debbie. Is that how that worked?
Well, you know, when Kay passed, we were able to decide among ourselves what we were going to distribute, who was going to get this, who was going to get that. And that was never an issue for any of us. That was not a problem. You know, some families, I mean, and so I said, I would like to have her pens. And I took the pens and I did that day. Debbie got, I mean, that was a wonderful day when Debbie got hired at NC State as athletic director. It was a very special day because it brought it all together. And we all ended up at NC State. And that was the greatest thing, that we would all have a connection with NC State.
Debbie, if just in case someone watching would be interested, Kay made this incredible video, if you recall, 2 years before her death, and you can still access it on the web. If you just Google Kay Yow funeral video, it will pop up, and it was pretty special then, and it still is today.
That's a great reminder leading into the Play4Kay games to take a look at that and to think that somebody had put their eulogy together 2 years before they passed is pretty remarkable. I have one last thing for both of you. I know we could go, you know, there's so many different things we could talk about, and I really want to keep it focused on the Play4Kay game since that's the time that we're doing this. I just want to know, like, for you guys, when you see the teams wearing pink or you turn on the television and there's a Play4Kay game and Kay's voice and story is being shared, and you know the impact of particularly the underserved community, how the fund has focused in that direction and what that would mean for Kay, when you just your general feeling about the Play4Kay and the movement and how exciting this particular time is that we celebrate what Coach Yow has been able to leave with us.
I think that's a great question for Susan, having served alongside of you as a longtime board member of the fund.
And I thought about it a lot. You know, I try not to, you know, try not to idolize the situation or the impact that Kay has had. I worry about that sometimes. It is special. It is special that she established something prior to her passing that could benefit others down the road who were battling cancer, particularly that of women. Jimmy V does a great job on the men's side of that, and you know, that her legacy is still alive. It's just her spirit's still here. It's just, I mean, it is special. That's all I can say, is that it's very, very special, and it just, to me, more than anything, it keeps her spirit alive, and people haven't forgotten her. And that she's still doing something that's benefiting others and helping others. I mean, I just know from yesterday how many people came up to me and told me some stories, and you know, it'll be like that tomorrow night, the Kay Yow Play4Kay game at NC State. I mean, it's a constant. It's a constant about what the fund is doing for her. And I think, you know, Kay's going to be remembered long. I mean, she'll be remembered much more for what she did for others as opposed to what she did in the game of basketball.
I'm so grateful that both of you took some time to be able to do this. Like I said, we could be here all day talking about stories and telling stories, but if there's one other thing as a parting shot that each one of you would like to provide about Kay or growing up or just this weekend is celebrating pink and women's cancers, what would that be, Debbie?
I think the thing that comes to my mind is I'm glad she channeled all the energy that she had through the struggles since 1987 into what ultimately became the fund, and what you two, along with many other board members and participants, have done to support research for cancer.
I don't think I could say that any better, Debbie.
Well, I'm so grateful for both of you. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you at the games, hanging out, and celebrating all those survivors, which is quite an impression when you look at the halftime at what will take place at NC State, especially at NC State, but places all across the country celebrating survivors. I know she would be proud of that. Thank you both so much for being on Nothing But Net.
Thank you, Debbie.